literally gone for several years. So from February 2003 when this happened all the way to October 2006, there were no lightweight title fights. Furthermore, there were literally no fights at all in the weight class from UFC 49 to UFC 58, only a couple months shy of 2 years. Crazy stuff. Number 15, the Yakuza. So you want to talk about something infamous, this one is going to be hard to top. The largest MMA organization in the world by 2007 suddenly met a brick wall when it was discovered that they were backed by several factions of the Japanese mob, or the Yakuza, and suddenly became an allergy to all TV networks, which pretty much instantly sunk them, causing the UFC to swoop in and take what remained of their roster and video library. The most infamous story is when Fedor took a one-fight deal to compete with a rival promotion in Japan called Inoki Bumbaye in 2003.
Finan-Chill. That feeling you get when you're on budget and on Cloud9. Let Finan-Chill become your everyday state of mind. Tap to start your journey to a more chill financial reality. These are Ed Words of Wisdom by Edward Jones.
Please have a seat. Have you ever had inappropriate physical contact with another man?
We lie about who we sleep with.
Not who we sleep with, it's who we love.
And what's alleged here is that Pride was furious enough about this to turn up with their Yakuza muscle and threatened Inoki Bumbaye officials and Fedor's manager after locking them in a room at gunpoint.
One of the guys pulled out his gun, put it on the table, and we continued to talk. And when I continued to push back, he picked the gun up and aimed it to my head and said, "You know what's going to happen if you don't side."
Fearing for his life, Miro reluctantly signed Fyodor over to Pride.
This story broke a little later in 2006 along with a ton of other accusations, and the company met its end soon after. Number 14, wild animals. I think even to this day, the idea of cage fighting is pretty extreme for a lot of people. And yeah, it kind of makes sense when you pull yourself out of it a little bit.
So we put together a business plan, brought in movie director John Milius, who did Conan the Barbarian, who launched Schwarzenegger's career, and a whole bunch of other great stuff in Hollywood. And I came up with, along with John, the concept of the octagon. I didn't want a boxing ring where the guys could not only slip through the ropes and get away if they get beat up, but also the corner could put the guy in a bad spot.
But I think at the end of the day, that octagon and the name the octagon really made it sound a little bit foreboding, dangerous even.
But the initial plans that were proposed got a lot crazier. In addition to an electric fence, which is potentially as lethal as it sounds, but there was also the extreme idea of putting an alligator moat around the cage.
We discussed the different options for the octagon. We thought of a moat with alligators around, or sharks. We thought of all kinds of an electric fence.
They thought all kind of different styles of the pit with alligators on the bottom.
Thankfully, cooler heads would prevail, and they realized a cage was pretty foreboding enough and far less unethical. Number 13, an undefeated cab driver. Back in the early UFC's Art Davie, and probably one of his best moves for early promotion was just to let fighters claim whatever the hell they wanted on their records.
Andy has a record of 86-0 in bare-knuckle challenge matches, with all 86 by knockout.
It would get thrown right back in their face anyway if they lost when their lies inevitably met someone more legitimate. So you saw all kinds of ridiculous records, but none more glaring than Thomas Ramirez. At age 41 and weighing literally 410 pounds, or at least that's how he was billed, he was perfect for the David vs. Goliath branded tournament that they were trying to push for UFC 8 in Puerto Rico. As a striker from the obscure art of Pakwachan with a conveniently even record of 200-0, well, he was about to meet reality.
And Fry holds down Ramirez, and that is it.
Yikes. I found a great interview online of Big John McCarthy talking about this.
Thomas Ramirez. And this guy was a taxi cab driver. He had no business being in there because Don Fry was a true wrestler and, had competed in Golden Gloves boxing and stuff. And had been training with, Dan Severn. So it had no business being there at all. And you go, oh, this is horrible. This guy was a taxi cab driver.
MMA's history is so crazy. Number 12, Star Wars MMA. This definitely sounds like two things that don't really belong in the same sentence together.
I wouldn't go that far.
But as odd as it might seem, the famed George Lucas,
George Lopez,
who of course created Star Wars, well, he had a daughter who fought in MMA.
I was never good at sports. I danced, and I was really good at that, and I knew I was good at that, but I never felt athletic. I hated PE.
I would never expected Amanda to become a fighter because she's so sweet and lovely and, quiet. I said, well, okay, you do what you love.
昨年の8月、リーグに初参戦を果たしましたアマンダ・ルーカス。